Mr. X on the Extreme channel here, going to preemptively answer some questions for you. Yes, when Magneto was washing his clothes, he put a red sock with the wrong colors. Yes, Magneto is holding Thor's hammer. I know you're thinking, that's pretty stupid. Well, believe it or not, this is directly from the comics. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today we are looking at another custom statue. That's right, a custom is a private unlicensed commission where they usually make less than 100. They made 50 of these, and this is Ultimate or Ultimatum Magneto. So this is a Marvel storyline that really a lot of people don't get into. And in this storyline, you have a lot of the same characters, and a lot of them play very similar roles, but they try and modernize it. And the way that people become mutants is a little bit different, but essentially most of the classic Marvel mutants we know and love are in it. They have the same powers. A few of them may be on a few different teams. And Magneto was an integral part of this story. He still had the power of magnetism. He still had the same beliefs that mutants are destined to be greater than humans. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were still his children. However, they actually died in this universe. And he became pretty upset, pretty pissed, and started doing some crazy shit trying to wipe everybody out. Hence, Thor's hammer. So if you want more information about that, I'm not the guy to go to. Go to your local comic book store and look for Ultimate Marvel Universe. Support those guys and learn more about this crazy storyline. Now, the reason why I picked up this statue is I'm a big Magneto fan. I love his power. Obviously, I love the X-Men. It's one of my favorite teams. And for a while, I had like 8 Magneto statues. Now, I currently still own about 3 or 4, and I have like 4 or 5 more on order. But at one time, I was getting like 15 of them. So I ordered him in anticipation of putting him with the rest because he was so different. Not only obviously his storyline, but costume, the fact that he's holding Thor's hammer. But now that I sold off most of those, other than a few, I don't know if I want to keep him anymore. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about it in the Extreme Review. Now, there's some really good things they did on this statue, and there's some things that I think could have been much better. And I think this particular review, it's really going to split the viewers. A lot of people are going to really like this statue, and a lot of people are absolutely going to hate it. And it's not just because he's not your traditional Magneto. There's just some things in here that to me don't make sense, but on the other hand, I also love them. So let's jump into what I'm talking about, starting with the concept of this piece. Now, obviously, it's Magneto in what we call a museum pose, so he's not doing a lot of action dynamic stuff, but let's take a look. So it starts with the museum sub-base. Again, you guys know I hate these. It has a little X-Men logo on the front. Then just some very plain rock on the bottom. Now the rock's done very well, but there's not really a lot of exciting stuff. Now since he's in a museum pose, again, there's not a lot of exciting stuff. One thing I like is the cape is actually flowing between his legs. That's different. His costume is completely different. Almost like the reds and the purples were yin-yang from where they originally were. You see him in this particular pose holding Thor's hammer. There are some switch-out options we're going to talk about. He's your very buff Magneto, as statue makers like to make Magneto more buff than me, which is hard to do. And he's just looking very stoic, very confident, very mad, very pissed, very determined. So I think they gave him a lot of presence without actually having to do too much. And I do like that. You know, the fact that he has Thor's hammer, that he's very different. The fact that the uniform is very different. I'll talk more about this later, but this is very much a museum piece. And I think if you're doing a whole line of Magnetos, or if you just want something different, or if you want this as a standalone statue, it's a great concept. Then try and go super elaborate, make him floating, which honestly, I think is a great thing because there are so many statues out there doing that. And this still shows his awesome presence and power without being a huge, gigantic statue. However, the concept in my mind isn't anything amazing where I just drop my jaw. So I'm going to rate it a 3 out of 5, and keep in mind on this channel, a 3 is a good score. With design, I'm going to say a lot of the same stuff. It's not overly complicated, and there are a few issues, but first let's look at the unboxing and assembly. It was a pretty compact box, which was definitely a nice change for sure. Now on top, they actually had packaging on top of the art box, but a small art box on the top here, kind of neat. Classic black foam with the straps. And there were 2 layers. So this first layer here had the base, which was actually on both layers, the cape and some of the heads, as you see here. And the second was the body and some of the other switch outs. And everything was packed really well. Like, it was difficult to get out of the foam, actually. So he does have some switch out options as well. His right arm is a switch out and his portrait. His first portrait right here is an unhelmeted version. Pretty simple, pretty plain. And I want to show his right arm switch out right now where he can actually hold his helmet. Because obviously you wouldn't want to show his helmeted version, which we haven't looked at yet, while he's still holding a helmet. Or your other option is you can show him with his helmeted version. And granted, you could do it without his helmeted version and holding Thor's hammer. His hand's a little bit farther down, and you see a variant of Thor's hammer we'll talk a little bit more about later. Definitely the way I'm going to go, I might switch out to the unhelmeted version, but I definitely want him holding Thor's hammer. That's what makes this unique. One thing I really like about this, like I said, it's a 1/4 scale Magneto statue. It doesn't take up a lot of room, so let's measure that. The diameter of the base is about 14 inches. And if you remember from geometry, diameter covers the width and the depth. But let's look at the height of the statue. So he has a 1/4 scale statue. He's maybe a little under 20.5 inches or so. Now with the switch out arm, you do have a seam line. The seam line's a little bit more apparent on the Thor holding hammer arm, but here it is right here. It's not horrible by any means. And it decently matches the other one, which is permanently attached. Like I said, I like that the cape is actually flowing from within, so it's not taking space on the outside because everything in here is sculpted. To my knowledge, this custom group, they do a lot of different lines. They did my Phoenix Force line. They aren't doing an entire Ultimate line, which if they are, I would love it if they make matching bases. So I may be wrong on that, but I don't think I've seen any other Ultimate pieces. So that's about it. So it is very simple. There is a little bit of a seam line. I like the switch out options, and I think this is also a 3 out of 5. It's very good, but it's nothing amazing. And paint and sculpt, this is where we're going to jump in, and like I said, this is where I think the viewers will be really split, and I think I say it again because I already filmed that part. Some people are absolutely going to love it, and some people are going to hate it. But let's take a look. So one prediction that I was talking about, I don't think everyone's going to love this piece, and let's start with the portraits. Now, I like it a lot better than I thought I would. So this portrait isn't bad. It's not my favorite taste. There definitely is a mix between comic and real, and it's done really well. Look how clean this paint is. The sculpt looks great in the hair, the eyebrows, around his lips, almost a 5 o'clock shadow painted on there. So fantastic paint job. I like the flesh tones they use, the piercing gaze. Of course, though, I want to display him with Thor's hammer, which technically you could do with this portrait as well. So we'll see if I end up doing that in the end. And we'll start with the other portrait. Now, what's interesting about this, like I said, I like the whited out eyes, shows more of a fierce, menacing power. Now, one thing with the assembly, as you saw, or maybe you didn't see, is he looks really funny without his helmet on. So clearly not an option because he has kind of a misshapen head. Maybe he was supposed to wear this helmet when he was young. I like the shiny gloss on the helmet. Sometimes that doesn't do it for me on a Magneto statue. I don't know why I really enjoy it on this. It matches the front of his cape here. I don't even know what that's called, but the thing that buckles it in. So it's a mix between purples and blues. You can see the light reflecting off of it. Then let's look at his cape really quick. So this is more of a matte color. There's some black shading that they added, very purpley. I like the flow of it. As we talked about, the flow of it through the front of his legs. A little bit different than you traditionally see on a Magneto statue. And like we talked about, it doesn't really take up that much space. Now with his portrait, there's that seam line we were talking about, or sorry, his torso. He is overly muscularized. And I've talked about this on Magneto statues before. I don't know why they're insistent on doing this. Yeah, it looks cool. It really does. But I don't really picture him as an over-muscularized guy. And then you can even see some of the veins protruding. They have that black shadowing inside the cracks in between his muscle areas. So really stocky type of guy. And this is what I don't think a lot of people will like. It's done very well, though. And even the paint on this, you see how clean it is in between the colors, like his gloves and the red. And it's kind of this mix of dark red mixed in with that black. Then his belt right here, he has 3 belts on because apparently his pants kept falling down. But looks pretty clean. I like it. It almost looks like that's a separate piece. So I think there's a little bit of a miss right here on the sculpt of it. He has his underwear on the outside, and it's the same color as his pants, this purple color that matches his gloves. Certain lights, it almost looks like it's a blue. But again, they kind of roided out on the anatomy, so it flows with the rest of the statue. A few creases. Boots, a lot of the same. So a few creases, they have that dark red shading. If you don't like shading or shadowing, you're not gonna like this statue. And if you don't like roided out muscles on a Magneto, you will not like this statue. I can definitely see the community really divided on this piece. I like it. The inside of the cape is kind of this matte red color. I think it contrasts well. You know, when you're zooming in like this and looking at a lot of the pictures, it's almost too much of the same color. But when you step back, it all works together really well. Thor's hammer looks fantastic. Looks like it's really aged and worn. And it doesn't have the traditional, remember this isn't the normal Marvel universe, so it does look a little bit different than his traditional hammer. Now the base here, I really like what they did with the rock. There's something about it. In brighter lights, it looks a little too white, but it looks fine when it's not on camera. I like the texture on it. Black Museum sub base. They could have been a little bit cleaner on the silver paint here. See how there's kind of some bleed over and misses. It's almost like someone who painted Magneto is not the same person who painted the base. I would have rather just had all rocky base personally. You guys know I'm not a fan of these sub bases here, museum style, but it does flow with the statue really well. This very nice museum piece of Magneto. So really gonna be torn on a lot of the scores for this piece. So let's talk about the sculpt first. You know, I think the portraits are good. I think he is over muscularized. This is just a little bit too much for me.
That's what she said.
But it's done very well. So it's more maybe of an art direction thing. I don't like how the three belts, the top of that, there's a little bit of a miss. I think the sculpt is also a 3 out of 5. My favorite part of the sculpt was actually the rocks on the base. Magneto's not bad, but I've definitely seen better. I've actually seen better from this group. They did an Age of Apocalypse Magneto I used to own. You can check out the review right here. Paint. If you eliminate the base, I don't like the paint on the base, some of that bleed over effect. I think is definitely it's from this factory. I almost dropped my tape measure. Did you see that? There's almost too much shading. I know I said it looks decent, but I have to give the paint a 3 out of 5 on this. So just to catch you up to speed, the grades are 3, 3, 3, 3 so far. Now is value going to be a 3? Let's talk about that. They made 50 of these, and it was $925 plus custom shipping was a couple hundred, which isn't bad nowadays. It was economy, so it took a month or so to get here, but everything was packaged fantastic, no breakages, which is awesome. So you're about $1,100 in. Now for a typical 1/4 scale piece, like from a licensed company like Sideshow, they're going to make 4,000 of them, and they're going to run $700 or $800. XM Studios, they might make 500 of them, and they're going to run about the same price as this. So I think the value's decent. I think it's a 4 out of 5. The reason why I say that is this is a Magneto from a different universe, and there are so many Magneto statues out there, especially custom Magnetos. So this is definitely different. I know there is a teaser of Ultimate Magneto sitting in a throne I've seen, but I would definitely prefer this one over that one for various reasons. Does this statue have the X factor? No, it doesn't. It's not a 5 out of 5 statue. I am really on the fence. I don't know if I'm going to sell this or not. I will certainly not sell it for a profit. I'm not going to lose money. So that's probably what I'll do. I actually have a for sale video coming up on Black Friday. So make sure you've actually subscribed to this channel and hit that bell notification because a bunch of statues are going on sale Black Friday. I'll probably put him for retail and cover and plus my shipping costs. So if I can break even on him and sell him, I will. If I can't, I'll probably keep him. That's a good idea. I just thought of that. See? On the fly. Hello, 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 hello. Is it too fast? Is it too fast? How extra... This is a Marvel storyline that's not really I'll preemptively But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And also, like I said, hit that Mr. X logo to subscribe to the channel. Check out some of these other custom statues. I have a whole bunch of custom Magnetos as well as other X-Men pieces and pretty much anything. But thanks for watching. I know I said but a lot. But. Talk to you tomorrow. But.